Hello everybody, my name is Hugo, and welcome to me ranking artists in a tier list. I am doing artists that existed a long time ago, as well as artists who are YouTubers. Full disclosure, I don't have their permission to do this, but I'm just going to assume that it's okay, because I'm a very small YouTuber. And if they have a problem with it, suck it up. Anyway, I will also be talking about a little bit of the history behind each artist. So, if that's not your thing, sorry, I suppose. I will not be going into the history of the YouTubers, but I will be going into the history of the famous artists, because it's pretty interesting. I highly recommend you wait for the Van Gogh part, as well as for all of these artists, because they have some interesting stories. And to start, Yayoi Kusama, most known for her piece Dot's Obsession, which was made in 2003. She was born March 22nd, 1929, and is currently the age of 93. She was born in Matsumoto, or the Empire of Japan. I hope I'm pronouncing Matsumoto right. I'm sure editing will prove me otherwise, but who knows. She is most known for painting, drawing, sculpting, film, writing, and so much more. She had quite the interesting lineup of hobbies. But the one thing people associate with her the most is her beautiful use of colorful polka dots. She does a lot of pop art, oh my lord, jeez, boy, oh my. Minimalism, feminist art, and environmental art. She was born into a family of merchants who owned a plant nursery and seed farm. She began drawing pictures of pumpkins in elementary school and created artwork she saw from hallucinations, which would later define her career. Yayoi's mother wasn't supportive of her art. In fact, Yayoi would rush a lot of her projects in fear that her mom would take them away to discourage her. Her mother supposedly was also physically abusive, while her father was a womanizer. Yayoi's mother would often send her to spy on her father and his multiple adulterous relationships. This contributed to Yayoi's contempt for sex. Yayoi said in an interview, "I don't like sex. I had an obsession with sex. When I was a child, my father had lovers and I experienced seeing him. My obsession and fear of sex sit side by side in me. When she was 10, she started having hallucinations, flashes of light, auras, or dense fields of dots and others. These, as well as other hallucinations, contributed to her career in a form of art that Kusama likes to call self-obliteration. At 13, she worked in a military factory, sewing and making supplies for soldiers in World War II. She described this experience as a closed darkness for this portion of her life. After all of this, in 1948, she went and studied Nihonga painting in Kyoto Municipal School of Arts and Crafts, which made her become frustrated with the distinct Japanese style and get interested in European and American avant-garde, and led many solo exhibitions in Matsumoto, Japan, in the 1950s. This led Kusama to gain very early success, and the rest is history. Now, her advocacy for mental health and her fantastic avant-garde style, I think she goes right up into S rank. And primarily that her troubled past truly brings out what type of artist that she really is. A powerful, strong, and interesting woman figure in the art community. Now, next we'll go on to the YouTuber Aaron Hansen, otherwise known as Egoraptor. Now, Aaron Hansen is also the creator of Game Grumps. He also has a couple of other businesses on the side, one of which I know is a touring company for specifically YouTubers. I believe it's specifically YouTubers, but I could be wrong in that. But overall, he's an entrepreneur. His primary art, at least at the time when he was doing mainly art, was animation. He did a lot of it on Newgrounds, I believe, and on YouTube. I believe he's also assisted in many animations for music videos for his co-host's band, Ninja Sex Party, as well as him and Dan Avedon's band, as well as Brian, whatever his last name is, their band, Starbomb. Just because of his character and his connection to my growing up and currently growing up, and the amount of Sleep Aid compilations I've watched, he goes right in A for Aaron Hansen. Next, we go on to one of my inspirations in my own art, Salvador Dali. Now, Salvador Dali, most known for the persistence of memory painting in 1931, that is the clock one that everybody associates Salvador Dali with, of course. Salvador Dali was born May 11th, 1904 in Spain, and died January 23rd, 1989, at the age of 84. He was most known for painting, drawing, photography, sculpture, writing, film, and jewelry. Dali received an education in fine arts in Madrid, influenced by Impressionism and the Renaissance painters of old from a young age. He became increasingly attracted to Cubism and avant-garde styles. He moved closer to Surrealism in the late 1920s and joined the Surrealist group in 1929, soon becoming one of its leading exponents. Dali lived in France throughout the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939. Before leaving for the United States in 1940, where he found success. He returned to Spain in 1948, where he announced his return to the Catholic faith, and developed his nuclear mysticism style. Based on his interest in classicism, mysticism, and recent scientific developments. Dali's older brother, who had also been named Salvador, born October 12, 1901, had died of gastroenteritis 9 months prior to Dali's birth. On August 1st, 1903, Dali was haunted by the idea of his dead brother throughout his life, memorializing him in his writings and art. Dali said of him, "We resembled each other like 2 drops of water, but we had different reflections. He was probably the first version of myself, but conceived too much in the absolute." Images of his brother would reappear in his later works, including the piece Portrait of My Dead Brother from 1963. Dali attended the Municipal Drawing School at Figueres in 1916, and also discovered modern painting on a summer vacation trip to Cadix with the family of Raymond Pichot. I am probably saying all of these names and places wrong, but he went with the family Ramon Pichot, who was a local artist who made regular trips to Paris. The next year, Dali's father organized an exhibition of his charcoal drawings in the family home. He had his first public exhibition at the Municipal Theater in Figueres in 1918, a site he would return to decades later. In early 1921, the Pichot family introduced Dali to Futurism. That same year, Dali's uncle, Anselm de Monech, who owned a bookshop in Barcelona, supplied him with books and magazines on Cubism and contemporary art, which led him down his artistic road. Salvador Dali, he was very much an inspiration for my own art, as well as probably some of the most famous surreal painters of today. And for that, He's going right in S rank for Salvador and surrealism. Next is Andy Warhol, most known for Marilyn Diptych, however you say it. I'm putting the word up on screen. Marilyn this from 1962. Andy was born August 6th, 1928, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, United States. He died February 22nd, 1987, at the age of 58. He was most known for printmaking, painting, cinema, and photography. Born and raised in Pittsburgh, Warhol initially pursued a successful career in as a commercial illustrator. After exhibiting his work in several galleries in the late 1950s, he began to receive recognition as an influential and controversial artist. A lot of controversy came from him being and living openly as a gay man before the gay liberation movement. In January 1968, he was almost killed by radical feminist Valerie Solanas, who shot him inside his studio. After gallbladder surgery, Warhol died of cardiac arrhythmia. In third grade, Warhol had Sydenham's chorea, also known as St. Vitus dance, the nervous system disease that caused involuntary movements of the extremities, which is believed to be a complication of scarlet fever, which causes skin pigmentation blotchiness. At times, when he was confined to bed, he drew, listened to the radio, and collected pictures of movie stars around his bed. Warhol later described this period as very important in the development of his personality, skill set, and preferences. When Warhol was 13, his father died in an accident. Warhol graduated from Shenley High School in 1945, and as a teen, Warhol also won a Scholastic Art and Writing Award. After graduating from high school, his intentions were to study art education at the University of Pittsburgh in the hope of becoming an art teacher. But his plans changed and he enrolled in the Carnegie Institute of Technology, now known as Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, where he studied commercial art during his time there. Warhol joined the Campus Modern Dance Club and the Buttes Arts Society. He also served as an art director at a student magazine, Kano, illustrating a cover in 1948 and a full-page interior illustration in 1949. These are believed to be his first two published artworks. Warhol earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Pictorial Design in 1949. Later that year, he moved to New York City and began a career in magazine illustration and advertising, and he only flourished from there. Now, you've all probably seen the Marilyn Monroe pop art that he did, but a lot of people don't really realize that a lot of the advertising that we see today on billboards and stuff is probably because of Andy Warhol. Campbell's ran a pretty successful advertising project based with a Campbell's soup can that Andy Warhol did. And the Campbell's soup cans that you see now are primarily because of him. Now, because of his amazing and, outrageous use in advertising, and primarily living our lives vicariously through advertising, and his fantastic pop art of celebrities that has influenced many creators today, he's going to go right in A for Andy. Next, we're going on to Tomska of ASDF movie fame. Now, I don't know too much about Tomska, but I did watch a lot of the ASDF movies when I was in middle school and high school. And for creating a meme culture through his animations, I'm going to have to put him in B. Not A, but B, because I was outrageously exhausted of all the kids quoting a lot of the things. But, admittedly, very good project, very well done. Next, we are going on to Egon Schiele, which I'm probably pronouncing his Name wrong. Most known for Portrait of Wally from 1912, he was born June 12, 1890, in Toln an der Donau, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and died October 31st, 1918, at the very, very young age of 28, unfortunately. He was known for painting, drawing, and printmaking. As a child, Scheel was fascinated by trains and would spend many hours drawing them, to the point where his father felt obligated to destroy his sketchbooks. To those around him, Scheel was regarded as a strange child. Shy and reserved, he did poorly at school except in athletics and drawing, and was usually in classes made up of younger pupils. He also displayed incestuous tendencies towards his younger sister Gertrude, who was also known as Gertie. And his father, well aware of Egon's behavior, was once forced to break down the door of a locked room that Egon and Gertie were in to see what they were doing, only to discover that they were developing a film. When he was 16, he took 12-year-old Gertie by train to Trieste without permission and spent a night in a hotel room with her. In 1906, Scheel appeared at the, get ready for this is a big boy word, Kunstgewerbeschule. Kunstgewerbeschule. School of Arts and Crafts, essentially, in Vienna, where Gustav Klimt had once studied. Within his first year there, Scheel was sent at the insistence of several faculty members to the more traditional Academia der Bildenden Kunst in Vienna in 1906. In 1907, Scheel sought out Gustav Klimt, who generously mentored younger artists, and his career soared from there. Now, Egon did a lot of portraits, and what's interesting about him is that he knew Gustav Klimt, which is another famous artist that is on this tier list, but will probably show up in part 2, which was very interesting. But because of that unverified, potentially incestuous relationship, going straight down to D. Well, maybe even E. Weirdly enough, E for Egon. Anyway, now we are moving on to Alan Becker of YouTube fame. He is most notable for his stickman drawings, or animations. Primarily, I believe what they're called is stickman versus creator, or stickman versus artist, or cursor, or something like that. They are pretty cool. I recommend you check them out. Anyway, those animations were very good, and I think he's going straight to B as well with Tomska. Primarily because videos, looking back on them, I was a little cringy because of them. Sorry, Alan, but I'm sure you'll understand. Next, we're going on to animator and YouTuber Alan, or not Alan, whoops, hold on. Alex Clark. He's a storytime animator similar to Jaden Animations and The Odd Ones Out. I didn't watch him as much, but I did watch him. But simply because I don't really watch him as often enough to really know anything about the guy. He's going into C. It's a nice little in the middle there. Next, we are going on to the artist René Magritte. Most known for The Son of Man from 1964, he was born on November 21st, 1898, in Lezines, Belgium. He died August 15th, 1967, at the age of 68. Little is known about Magritte's early life. He began lessons in drawing in 1910. On March 12, 1912, his mother committed suicide by drowning herself in the River Sambre. This was not her first attempt at taking her own life, though. She had made many over a number of years, driving her husband, Leopold, to lock her in her bedroom. One day she escaped, though, and was missing for days, until her body was later discovered a mile or so down the nearby river. According to legend, 13-year-old Marguerite was present when her body was retrieved from the water. But recent research has discredited this story, which many have originated with the family's nurse. Supposedly, when the mother was found, her dress was covering her face, an image that has been suggested as the source of several of Marguerite's paintings in 1927 to 1928, of people with cloth obscuring their faces, including Les Amants. Marguerite's earliest paintings, which date from about 1915, were impressionistic in style. During 1916 through 1918, he studied at the Académie Royale des Beaux-Arts in Brussels, under constant mental, but found the instruction uninspiring. He also took classes at Académie Royale from the painter and poster designer Gisbert Cambaz. The paintings he produced during 1918 to 1924 were influenced by Futurism and by the figurative Cubanism of Metzinger. Now, I find René's stuff fascinating. They all have this sense of surreal, abstract feelings. It's just very present in his art. And the unfortunate passing of his mother and the legend behind his mother, despite it being discredited, there has to be a reason for him doing a lot of paintings with the cloth over the faces of the characters in his paintings. And because of how cool they are, I have to say, he is going right into A. He'll go into A. Now next we have Hugo Griffin. Now, this idiot lives his life in Texas right now. Dallas, Texas. What a nerd. He originally lived in beautiful Parker, Colorado, but he moved away from that because, reasons. Now, none of his paintings are in the slightest famous, but he is a YouTuber, I heard. His YouTube channel is just Hugo Griffin, and if you look for the symbol of his drawn head with 3 eyes on it, you'll probably be able to find it. He has very little subscribers, and he's really trying hard to make this a full-time thing, so you could do that if you're nice enough. D. I'm going in D. Next, we have Claude Monet, most known for his painting Impression Sunrise from 1872. He was born on November 14th, 1940 in Paris, France, and died on December 5th, 1926 at the age of 86. He's known as the founder of Impressionist painting, who is seen as a key precursor to modernism, especially in his attempts to paint nature as he perceived it. His father, a wholesale merchant, wanted him to go into the family business, but Monet wanted to become an artist. His mother was a singer and supported Monet's desire for a career in art. On April 1st, 1851, he entered Le Havre Secondary School of the Arts. He was an apathetic student who, after showing skill in art from a young age, began to draw caricatures and portraits of acquaintances at age 15 for money. In around 1858, he met fellow artist Eugene Baudin, who would encourage Monet to develop his techniques, teach him the en plein air, otherwise known as outdoor, techniques for painting, and take Monet on painting excursions. Monet thought of Baudin as his master, whom, quote-unquote, he owed everything to for his later success. He studied more in Paris until he was called for military service. He returned from service after he suffered an illness, and from there he continued his art career and flourished from there. He also has one of the sickest beards I've ever seen. Now, he is the founder of Impressionist painting, and so on, or at least known for such. But if you look at his paintings, they have such a interesting lack and variety in color. They have such a strong feeling to them. And frankly, I really enjoy that side of him. So he's going up into S. Next, we are going on to the YouTuber and animator, Felix Kolgrove. Now, I don't know if any of you guys know Felix Kolgrove, but he is another beard bro. He's got a really cool beard. And he is most known for his very surreal and just odd style of art. If you've ever been in an art class and they taught you how to draw those big cartoon eyes on those fluffy ball people or whatever, it feels like he took that style and just ran with it. And it's super cool. I'd recommend you checking out his videos. And because of his surrealism being a primary part in my life, he's going right into A. Next is another YouTuber and a horror artist named Jordan Perzigati. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Jordan. Like you're going to ever watch this video. But Jordan is, I believe he's Australian, based on his voice alone. He is a horror artist. I recommend you guys checking him out. He is one of the biggest inspirations for me starting a YouTube channel. I would say he's the main reason I started one. Next to money. But he, initially I watched him without even realizing years ago when he did creepypasta narrations over speed drawing videos. But I recently got back into him when one of his videos popped up on my homepage for YouTube, which I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I believe it was Horror Artist versus a Frozen coloring book, I believe. And from there, I just watched a lot of his videos, and I remember commenting on one of them that I would love to apprentice under him, because his art is exactly what I'm trying to go for. But Jordan, you've been such an inspiration to my channel. You're going right up into SS rank. I love you, dude. Next, we're going into Domix. Recently, Domix, Aaron Hansen, Ross O'Donovan, and Jaden Animations, as well as the Odd Ones Out, we're going to go on tour for a tour called Scribble Showdown or something. I believe Domix pulled out of that at some point, but yeah, I remember watching Domix a lot in the stage of my middle school life, where I was watching a lot of Odd Ones Out, Alex Clark, Domix, Jaden Animations, and so on. I was watching a lot of animation stuff at that time. I remember watching a bit of his stuff. Nothing against you, Domix, but I really don't know much about you. So you're going into C with Alex. Next we have the lovely Vincent van Gogh, who is most known for the Starry Night painting that he did in 1889. Fun fact, he actually painted it as the view from his asylum window. Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853, in Zundert, Netherlands, and died on July 29th, 1890, at 37 years old due to suicide by gunshot. Vincent is known for painting, drawing still life, portraits, and landscapes. In a decade, he created about 2,100 artworks, including around 860 oil paintings, most of which date from the last 2 years of his life. He struggled with severe depression and poverty, eventually leading to his suicide. As a young man, he worked as an art dealer, often traveling, but became depressed after he was transferred to London. He turned to religion and spent time as a Protestant missionary in southern Belgium. He drifted in ill health and solitude before taking up painting in 1881. Having moved back home with his parents, his younger brother, Theo, supported him financially. Van Gogh suffered from psychotic episodes and delusions, and though he worried about his mental stability, he often neglected his physical health. He did not eat properly, and he drank heavily. His friendship with Gauguin, or however you say his name, ended after a confrontation with a razor, when, enraged, he severed part of his own left ear. Vincent may have felt he deserved to be punished for ruining another friendship and dream, and in his mind would immediately race to find connections. His religious past could bring up thoughts of Peter cutting off the ear of a Roman soldier after Judas betrayed Christ. There was a popular book at the time where a character was punished by having his ear cut off as well. And a month earlier, Jack the Ripper cut off the ear of a woman. So, in Van Gogh's mind, he felt he needed to cut off his ear as a punishment for ruining his friendship that he had with Gauguin, as he was surrounded by a lot of, let's say, propaganda about ear cutting off. He spent time in psychiatric hospitals after he cut his ear off, including a period at St. Remy. His depression persisted, and on July 27th, 1890, Van Gogh is believed to have shot himself in the chest with a revolver, dying from his injuries 2 days later. Van Gogh was commercially unsuccessful during his lifetime, and he was considered a madman and a failure, as he became famous only after his suicide. He came to be seen as a misunderstood genius in the public imagination. For me, Van Gogh is also another inspiration. His tragic backstory of his life really puts to mind what most artists go through in order to reach their career path. A lot of times, most artists have struggled with depression or thoughts of suicide, anxiety, mental health issues, or so on and so forth. And he really highlights that. Now, the misconception about his ear has changed many times, but in my opinion and in historians' opinions, he cut his ear off because of the incident with the razor with his friend Godwin. A lot of people believe that he cut it off because he was either suicidal and he wanted to self-harm, or that he cut it off so he could send it as payment to a prostitute. Both of those are rumors. What I believe and historians believe is the thing with Gauguin. But because of all that, he has to go up into SS rank. Now we're on to the last two that I'm doing for this video. This is going to be a two-parter, maybe even a three-parter, depending. I have to do a lot of research on these artists, and I still have a lot to go. But next one up is Eugene Delacroix, most known for Liberty Leading the People in 1830. I don't have a lot on Eugene, primarily because there isn't a lot on him. He does have some interesting parts about his past, but primarily he's known for his amazing war and battle paintings. If you've ever looked at Liberty Leading the People, or I believe he also did the painting of Napoleon. That is super well known. If you ever played Fallout 4, if you go inside of the place with the Minutemen, the first place, you can, or just anywhere, you can see a lot of these paintings in that game. But anyway, Eugene was born on April 26th, 1798, in France, and died on August 13th, 1863, at the age of 65. There isn't much interesting info on his early life, like I said, besides his false father dying in battle and his actual father dying when Delacroix was 16, which made him an orphan. And this is the interesting thing. It is believed that Delacroix's father was actually had trouble with erectile dysfunction and was believed that he could not have a child. And eventually, Eugene found out that his actual father was still alive after his mother passed. And he sought him out and spent a bit of time with him until his actual father did die. Fun fact about him, he also occasionally painted himself in the paintings people asked him to make. In a very small part of a few of his paintings, he can be seen, which is, I find to be very funny. But anyway, because of his influence in realism art and war art and stuff, he's going to go right into B, primarily because of the lack of history on him, rather the lack of super interesting history. You know what? Maybe A. I think he's an A. Not S because of the history part, but it was super influential. Now, the last one that we're doing is another YouTuber known as Chris O'Neill, otherwise known as Oni Plays. I don't know much about him. Similar to Game Grumps, I watch him a lot. He was an animator on Newgrounds for a long while, up until, well, I'm not sure of the year, but he primarily did a lot of that. He's also a voice actor. Now, I find him really funny, but I think he has to go into B. I know this is kind of this unfortunate ending to this part of this part 1. Like, it's not very interesting, but keep in mind for next time there are a lot more history about older artists. One of which will start off the next one, Gustav Klimt, who had contact with Egon Schiele, one of the two. So I recommend you keep an eye out for that. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It really helps out. And please comment down below where you think the ones I did today should actually be, and whether I did it right in your mind. What's your opinion? I will put the YouTubers' YouTubes down in the description. Please check them out. I highly recommend you check them out. No shade to them in any sense. But yeah, go check them out. Please subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. Check out my website and my Instagram, so on and so forth. I currently am setting up a Twitter, which you can also go and follow if you want. I'm not going to post much on there because I hate Twitter. That's all that I have for you today. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and have an artful day, everybody.